Nestling at the foot of Dartmoor, Tavistock initially feels like an old-fashioned kind of place. A market town dominated by heavy stone architecture with a rich history built on the traditionally masculine industries of agriculture and mining. It appears on a glance a town where you'd come to wind down and relax after a long career in the busy city environment. But in fact, it is quite the opposite. This small Devonshire town is more than meets the eye, and a quiet revolution is underway here. New official figures suggest that Tavistock is the first place outside of a few tiny boroughs of London where women are earning more than men. Figures released recently show that the official average wage in the UK for men is £28,713, whereas for women it is only £23,074, a gap of 9.6% and £5,639. However, in Tavistock the figures look very different. The average wage for men is much lower, at £22,218, whilst women in the area are earning £24,555, a £2,337 gap in favour of women. Other figures also show that the proportion of female decision makers in the area's businesses stands at 42%, compared to a national average of only 29%. Women in Tavistock are clearly thriving, but the local council are urging that the figures are taken with caution.
It appeared that in the West Devon area that the average pay for women was higher than other parts of the country, and so that obviously bucked the trend. And yes, we can look at those figures, but we've got to take them with a pinch of salt. Really, we've got to be some caution in interpreting them. And why we say that is because the sample size is so small, so there is sort of a margin of error there that could be had. And again, it goes back to why we're saying those higher wages for women is because in West Devon we have high employment levels in the public sector. That's predominantly sort of led by females. If we look at Tavistock, for example, Tavistock College is the biggest employer in Tavistock, and they have nearly twice as many female staff as they do male.
One of Tavistock's most successful businesses is the Original Pasty House, run by Nigel Eady and his wife Janet. It celebrates its 10th birthday later this year, and Nigel, who is also the head of the town's Chamber of Commerce, is not surprised to see so many independent businesses like his own succeeding, including those led by women.
Our evidence base, as I've said in Tavistock, with 80% of the business being independent and being owned by women, is actually a strong platform on which to support the statistics that already come out. So I wouldn't say they should be taken with a pinch of salt at all.
Another of Tavistock's business owners is Debbie Walsh. Debbie's career took a turn early last year as she moved out of her comfort zone of teaching and into business. Her decision to change careers has proven a successful one, despite being in business just under a year.
Really, I just got to the point where I knew I needed a change and I knew I needed to do something else. So I sat down and thought, what else could I do? And having a background with animals, teaching animal care as well as working with special needs students, my father's got a shop, so I've grown up learning retail and actually working in his shop and knowing a lot about retail industry. Was looking at properties to do a B&B actually, and then saw the shop for sale and thought, I can do that.
And her transition into business has been easier than anticipated, largely thanks to the local community.
We didn't know how we were going to be received by a lot of the regulars and the people, and we have had nothing but amazing support from the Chamber of Commerce, from Nigel and his wife Janet, from a lot of the other businesses in the area. Well, everybody actually. We have had no negative comments, we've had no negative input whatsoever. The financial side's been the hardest, but really the actual coming into the town and getting on with people and getting help has been actually quite easy.
The supportive nature of other businesswomen in the town has also made the move into business easier.
There is such a strong contingent of women that own independent stores here, and if I'm having a hard day or finding something difficult, I go talk to one of them. I could name you 6 people now that I could go and say, what do I do about this, and what do you do with these accounts, or how do I deal with this stuff, and I can go and get support from them.
Women are also stamping their mark elsewhere in the town, in particular at the local college. In 2010, Tavistock College appointed Helen Salmon as the new principal. At the time, the college was in the worst state of its history, with Ofsted special measures put in place. But since her appointment, the college has been turned around and is back on its feet once again. However, teaching in recent years has changed, and she's not the only woman making a mark in the profession.
Every other place I've worked, I think I'd say that there have been campaigns to actually promote more women. When I first came ahead in Devon, I attended a meeting in the first 2 months in post. There was a real concern that there weren't enough women in leadership roles. I mean, that has got better and that has changed, but at that point, you could count them on the fingers of one hand for Devon heads. I'd go to a meeting, and my first heads meeting I went to in 2006, I found just serried rows of suited men.
It may only be a small town in Devon, but Tavistock is bucking the trend. There's a chink in the glass ceiling, and women are really making a name for themselves. But what is it that sets Tavistock aside from any other town?
What I put it down to personally is that the whole environment in the southwest, and in particular in Tavistock, it's maybe a little less, and I can say this having worked in other parts of the country, it's a little less testosterone driven than other environments. Particularly when you go into the City of London, for example, it is very, very male dominated.
People living around Tavistock understand that if we don't support it, we will lose it. And I think if you've lived in other places, you've seen that. I've seen that in the high street where my dad still has his shop. Half the shops are charity shops, half the shops are pound shops, and the rest are empty.
I think it's a very supportive community, because all my experience prior to coming here was in inner city schools and inner city areas. But I think there's a lot of positive things going on in this community, and there are all sorts of organisations. It seems quite a thriving town. For a small town, there's a lot going on. There's lots of clubs, societies, community groups, charities. And I think if you engage with all of that, that's been really helpful.
In 2005, Tavistock was voted Britain's best market town, and despite not being given the honour since, the local market is still thriving, as it offers the opportunity to set up a new business at a low cost, and this is part of the reason why local business is booming. The majority of Tavistock's market traders are also women, and they put their own and the town's business success down to the variety that it offers.
You go to most town centres, most city centres, anywhere in the country, and you see the same shops. It's like you could go to one town and go to another town and have exactly the same experience. You go to the same coffee shop chains, you go in the same chemists, the same department stores, whereas in Tavistock you've got lots and lots of little tiny shops that are all independent, and therefore everyone's different, and you're going to have a totally different shopping experience.
Plymouth and Exeter, you can replicate that in any city up and down the country, but you come to Tavistock and you do find something a bit different.
But despite all the success within Tavistock, the wage equality debate will roar on around the country, with women remaining underpaid. However, could there be a chance that Tavistock could be a small stepping stone towards greater equality in the workplace?
I think it can be used as a mechanism to encourage more women to become involved in other things. And here in the southwest, we've got evidence of the fact that they're doing, by virtue of their salaries, a way better job than men rather, which hurts a little bit being a bloke.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a pleasant position to be in, to be bucking the trend, and because it's something for most of my career I've been talking about the opposite issue. So I think it could have an impact and really make people sit up and take notice. Yeah.
That could be one of the shifts, because there's a lot less women staying at home and doing their careers first and then going into motherhood in later life. And I think that is one of the reasons why it's swaying.
So whilst we won't see any immediate change on a wider scale, Tavistock will continue to carry the torch for working women across the UK, and maybe one day there'll be more towns just like this one.